Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Tuesday, October 7th, just about 7:45 at night, and this is our daily recap video for our YieldMax weekly paying funds. ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, SLTY, the Ultra Short Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry Option Income Fund. If you don't already follow me on X, maybe consider it at ETF_Inspector1. I let you know when videos are premiering. The notifications for these seem to come out a little faster than if you have notifications turned on with YouTube. But either way, if you do, it's probably still good. It does help the channel if you have them turned on. Quick recap on the channel. We're creeping up on that 5,000 subscriber mark, 4,810. Let's see, I think we got a new member today. CC Man joined one day ago on the members, so he's the newest. CC Man's been in the comments, sends me messages on X, and has supported the channel before, so not a new face, just the newest member. All right, let's take a look at how the market went today. Started off looking like we were going to have another big day, and then pulled back. I was a little too busy roofing with my regular job to be able to tell you what changed, but suddenly we went from 556 all the way down to 545 before kind of closing out at 550, which is still a nice price for ULTY. LFGY, again, started out above, in the positive, dropped pretty low, and then kind of recovered, still sitting at a good price overall. And SLTY needed a good day, and they had one. So up 1.1%, up another almost 2% after hours. So they're trying to bounce off the bottom there. We'll take a look at the individual underlyings when we look at our spreadsheets. So we'll start off with trades. ULTY not doing a lot of trading yesterday and today, so they adjusted their call strikes on CoreWeave, brought them down closer to the money, to $515,000 credit collected. Pony AI similarly bought to close their sold calls and dropped them closer to the money, $630,000 collected. But Rocket Lab, that's another story. They had to close out those $55 calls and moved them all the way up to 62. That cost us $10.6 million, and that's going to ruin our day for trading. Overall, costing us $9.5 million on the trading day. It's going to go along with a $25 million decrease in the value of our shares. I know when I checked it early this morning, it was in the positive, $61 million. So that was a pretty big swing down, but at least it recovered back up most of what it dropped. Tomorrow is Declaration Day. So if you remember, on Sunday's video, I did give a guess for ULTY of 9 cents. And since they make the decision on Monday, and we saw how the market performed Monday, the guess was that it'll probably be a little more than 9 cents even, but we will find out tomorrow morning, 6:55. When we take a look at the underlyings within the fund to see how things worked out, Affirm Holdings was up a little over 1%. Their calls at 80 are still 4% out of the money. They also sell puts to help pay for their protective puts at 66. They're almost 14% out on those sold puts. Bullish was down 5.3%. They have 69s and 70s expiring Friday as far as calls are concerned. Just about 6 and 7.5% out of the money. Bitmine Immersion was down over 6%. So these 59s were pretty deep in the money. They're now getting pretty close, only 0.5% out. And the 61s came out of the money to 2.8% out. CNC is Centene Corporation. Again, that's a new one from the end of last week. Closing at 38.42. They just have a put spread. The sold puts are 1.5% in the money. Coinbase down 2.6%, bringing both their sets of calls out of the money. 380s and 385s are now 1 and 2% out. CoreWeave is down 3 3/4. They took the win on those further out 145s. They still have 143s in play that are 11% out of the money. As far as government obligation funds, $538 million to go along with cash of $165 million. Totals up to over $700 million in what I call dry powder. They don't consider it that way. They say that it's set aside for the put spreads. When I do the calculation on the put spreads, I just look at what they would have to cover for the spread. That's only $19 million, but they are keeping the amount as if they were going to have to cover the full put. So I don't understand why, but Figma, we've got 6.8% increase. They're the big gainers today. It took both their calls at 58 and 59 into the money by 3 and 4+%. They've also sold puts at 44 to help pay for their protective puts. Those are doing just fine, 27% out. Galaxy Digital, here's another put spread. They're up pretty big, so their puts are getting further out of the money, 10.3% on those 35.50s. Hims and Hers needed a good day. They've had a tough time lately, up almost 6%. Took their 58s just to the money pretty much. They're 2 cents out. 59s and 60s are 1.7 and just about 3.5% out. Robinhood was up 0.5%. They have 148s and 152.5s. They're 2 and 5% out of the money. Lucid Group was down 8+%. Took their $25 calls 13.5% out. Lululemon struggling to get its head above water here. These $180 puts on the put spread are 3.9% in the money currently. They need Lululemon. Even their the purchased end of their puts are in the money. MP Material Corp down almost 0.75%. $77 sold calls are 4.3% out of the money. Strategy was the big loser today. So right after having a good day yesterday, they give it back today, 8.7% down. Brought their 352.50s out of the money by 7.3%, and the 365s are further out now, 11%. Open Door up just a hair, 0.11% or 1 penny. $9 calls are still in the money by 3.1%. Palo Alto Networks, this is another one of those put spreads. Sold puts are 207.50. They're 1.6% out. Palantir up almost 1.5%, just about at the money on those 182.50s. They've only got 33 cents to go. The 185s are still 1.5% out of the money. Pony AI down 7.73%. They took the win on those, closed those, locked in the profit, and sold closer to the money strikes. Quantum Computing down 0.68%. Their 20s are still way in the money by 9%. Then they've got 24s and 25s that are 9 and 11% out of the money. Rigetti was up 5.25%. 37.50s are way in the money and even deeper now, almost 15%. And their 43s have now gone into the money by 2%. Rocket Lab was up over 5%. Here's another one. They were already there and got worse. So the 55s got closed and rolled. The 59s are still in play, 4% in the money. Rocket Companies down 3.8%. They have 19s and $20.50 calls sold, 16.6 and 25.8% out. NewScale Power was down almost 6.5%. They've got calls sold at 42.5 and 43, 8.3 and 9.6% out of the money. They've also sold puts at 33 to help pay for the $37 puts that they are using as protection. Those sold puts are almost 16% out of the money. SoundHound AI down a little over 0.25%, selling calls at 19 and 19.50. They're 4.4 and 7.1% out. Symbotic, 0.85% increase. 64s are in the money by 6.5%, and $69 calls are 0.8% out. And finally, Upstart down 1.5%, $57 calls are 10% out, and $46 puts that were sold to pay for the protective puts are 11.2% out. So all in all, that resulted in a $25.5 million decrease in value. When the day started, there was $3.3 billion in assets under management. So that number doesn't show the increases or the decreases on both sides, change in market value and trading, but it also doesn't account for whether people bought into or out of the fund. So we will find that out later tonight with the late night download. But yesterday, 500,000 shares got added to our outstanding shares. So people buying into the fund, bringing us up to an even 610 million outstanding shares. All right, that is the NAV started the day at 552, and we ended with our share price at 550. So it's still trading very close to the NAV. Next, we'll take a look at SLTY. Oh, no. SLTY's last. Next, we'll take a look at LFGY. Another one with hardly any trades. All they did was closed their call spread on CleanSpark and then just sold the calls at a higher strike. Didn't do the spread on the second time around. That cost $681,000. And then PayPal just adjusted their sold calls from 70 to 76. That cost $216,000 for a total of $898,000 debit. That's going to go along with a decrease in the value of their shares of about $3.4 million. Before we switch pages, just a reminder, the guesstimate that was made on Sunday was 50 cents. And I said based off of Monday, maybe I'd increase it just a little bit, but we'll find out tomorrow morning. Another side note, if you like LFGY, I did make a video on blocks that is very similar to LFGY, and it is right there ready for you if you want to go watch it. It's just a 20-minute video explaining how it works, what they hold, what they trade, what they've been paying out, and so nice little self-promotion there. When we look at the holdings for LFGY, they got Bitmine Immersion that was down 6.1%, and their calls are still in the money with that. So it's a great thing that they didn't close those out yesterday. They would have paid $5.52 per share, 100 shares per contract, 901 contracts. That would have cost obviously about $500,000. Now, after it dropped to this, they're only in the money by 33 cents. There's still going to be time value associated with this, but if they made it all the way to Friday at that price, you're talking about change to close it out rather than $5.50. BitDeer Technology was down 1.3%, still in the money on those 20s by almost 3%. CleanSpark was up 3%. Unfortunately, they were already in the money and kept going, so they closed and rolled those. Coinbase was down 2.6%. $420 calls expiring Friday are 11.7% out. Core Scientific was down 4.5%. $19 calls are 11% out of the money. Circle Internet Group up just barely 0.14%, or about 21 cents. 165s sold are about 11% out of the money. iShares Ethereum Trust ETF down 5.25%. They were in the money, so now they're out. 3550s are 4.7% out. Galaxy Digital was up 1.9%, getting close to the money. $40 calls are 1% out. GameStop. So we did get a little bit of an explanation on what we have right here by our friend Oregon Cash Flow. Let me see if I can quickly bring that answer up for you. So he said GameStop gave a warrant to current shareholders. It's the right to buy a share at $32 strike price, so it doesn't really affect anything right now. It's like getting a free call option. It has some value and it can be traded or held. It says you get one warrant for every 10 shares that you hold, and the warrants expire October of next year. So thank you, Oregon Cash Flow Pro. I left the pro part out. So that's what this second line of GameStop is. It has a different QSIP, as you can see, than the regular GameStop, and that makes sense, right? We've got basically 1/10 of the quantity there, but they're not showing any value. But GameStop itself was down 2.8%, and their calls sold at 27 are just about 11% out of the money. Robinhood Markets was up 0.5%. 155s are still almost 7% out. Hut 8 Corp up 0.75%. $45 calls expiring Friday are 7.8% out of the money. iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF down over 3%. That one hurts, and we don't have any options, so it's just the share price and the change in value dropped us by over 500,000. Mara Holdings down 1.5%, still up over 20 though. $20.50 calls are 1.2% out. MBTX had a down day, dropping to 287.66. Their $305 calls are now 6% out of the money. They also purchased puts in a put debit spread, trying to make money on those. 255s expiring the end of the year. They're way out of the money, 11%. Mercado Libre was up 1.5%. Their calls are sold at 2,290. They're 4.6% out of the money. Strategy, again, the big loser over here, just like in ULTY, down 8.7%. They've got calls sold at $365 that are 11% out. NU Holdings was down 1.6%, and their $15.50 calls expiring Friday are 2.5% out of the money. NVIDIA was down a little over 0.25%. They've got calls sold at 190 that are 2.6% out of the money. Opera down 4+%. They're now 16% out of the money. Calls are sold at 20 with the expiration of 10/17, so not this Friday but next. PayPal was the big winner today, up 4.6%. We didn't get to enjoy any of it though because they were already in the money and went further, so they had to sell those calls, purchase those calls to close them out and sell new ones. We can kind of get an idea though on the timing when they did it. So let's see. PayPal, they paid $460 to close those out. No, we can't tell if they did it at the end of the day. Well, no, we know that. Where are we at? They did it at a lower price than this because there's no way they would have been paying $460 if they had $4.61 in intrinsic value plus the rest of the week in extrinsic value. So they did it at a better time, and so they did get to realize a little bit of that increase after they uncapped it. Riot Platforms down 0.4%. They've got $22 calls sold that are 2.5% out, and Block was up 1.6%. $80 calls are 1.2% out of the money. So all in all, that resulted in a $3.4 million decrease in the value of the shares. So it's not an overall decrease of $3.4 million for the entire fund, because with every single move, every single option also is going to increase or decrease in value. So that's not information we have readily available the way share prices are. So this gives us a rough idea, but when we download everything late tonight, that'll finish giving us the rest of the picture. There's $212 million in assets under management for LFGY. People bought into the fund yesterday. Outstanding shares increased by 25,000 up to 5.6 million. NAV at the start of the day was just under 38, but it did have a down day, dropping the share price by the end of the day to 37.74. That's everything for LFGY. We'll finish out with SLTY, and we'll go even faster. Right off the bat, SLTY didn't have any trades, so we're done on this page other than We can look at the next page to see our increase in market value, 172,000. Guesstimate was 62.5 cents that we made on Friday. And with the market moving up on Monday, the day they make the final decision, I did say it could be a little lower than that. But I always leave the guess the way it is, either way. All right, SLTY is kind of the opposite. They short everything, so they don't own any shares of any of these underlyings. They actually have negative shares because the way they start a position is selling shares that they didn't have. That's how shorting works. So the idea behind it is you sell it and you think it's going to go down. So then when you buy it back to get back to even or zero shares, if you buy it back for less than you sold it for, the difference that you kept is your profit. So with that in mind, when they go down, that actually helps you. It increases your value. And when the shares prices go up, it hurts you. So Astera Labs was down almost 4%. As you can see, that helped increase the market value. Their puts are sold at 197.50, 6.8% out. Their calls are sold at 247.50, almost 17% out. Bloom Energy was down 1%. Again, that helps. Puts sold at 82 or 4.75% out of the money. Bitdeer Technology was down 1.3%. Puts are now 10+% out of the money at 18.50. Calls are 4% out of the money at 21.50. Circle Internet Group, like we said, up 0.14%. Puts are now 7.8% out on $137 strike price. And they have $180 calls sold that are 21% out. Duolingo down 0.1%. Puts at 307.50 are 3.9% out. Calls sold at 380 are 18, almost 19% out. Enphase Energy was down 2.4%. They've got puts sold at 35.50, 2% out of the money, and calls sold at 44.50, 22, almost 23% out of the money. GitLab was down 2%, so their screen jumped on me. Puts are sold at 45.50, 1.4% out, and calls are sold at $55, 19+% out. Iron, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Iron Limited was the big winner today, but that doesn't make it a winner for SLTY because if it goes up, it hurts. So up 6.8%. Dropped our value by 80,000. Makes those puts real nice and far out of the money. $49 or 20.5% out. And the calls that we sold are at 60 are actually in the money, 2.7%. But the calls that are purchased, 52.50, are way in the money, so they will more than offset that. Kratos Defense and Security Solutions up 3.4%. $91 puts are 12+% out of the money. $114 calls are just about 10% out. Lemonade was down 1.8%. 51s on the puts are still 7+% out of the money, and $63 calls are 14+% out. Nebius Group was the big loser, biggest decreaser out of the fund, which helps this fund. Going down almost 5.8%, increased the value by 108,000. That did take their sold puts at 118 into the money by 0.25% or 30 cents, but no action was taken. $150 calls were sold at 27+% out. I can't talk. RH was down 1.7%. Their 202.50 puts are already in the money and went further. They're now 3% in the money. And finally, Tesla down just about 4.5%. Their $430 puts are getting close, 0.7% out of the money. Their $495 calls sold are 14+% out. And all of that resulted in a $172,000 increase in the overall value of the fund. Before any of that started, the assets under management was 15.9 million, with no change in outstanding shares, 400,000. The NAV at the start of the day, 39.77, and like we said, they had an update today, so their share price ended up at 40.20. All right, so that is all the information I have for you for ULTY, LFGY, and SLTY. I've got a dad joke of the day, and then we'll get you out of here because it's getting close to bedtime for us East Coasters. I guess it's not that late, but it feels late because it's dark already. So, all right, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all the likes, shares, and comments. Appreciate Mr. CC Man as the newest member of ETF Inspector supporters on YouTube. And here's your joke. Forgot to flip the page on the calendar. What do you call it when James Bond takes a bath? 007. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Thank you for watching. Good luck trading tomorrow. Watch out for, usually on Wednesday, if I'm able to, I do make a declaration video. So it'll look just like that. And it's going to be Group B. So a Group B in the weeklies. So watch for that in the morning if I'm able to get it out. And other than that, I'll catch you in tomorrow evening's videos. Good night.